Hi there, it's Miss Shari, just me, and I'm ready to share with you Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is called The Ram. The next morning, Hans got up before the sun. This time he did not stop at the inn, so he got to the top of the Misty Mountains just about midday. As before, the Trade Wind twins greeted him. "Hello there, young master," said West Wind. "What brings you back to our mountain so soon?" Even though Hans was still a little upset with the North Wind and he was a little tired from his journey, he tried to smile at her. "I'm here to talk to the North Wind about the tablecloth. He said it was magic, and it was for a while, but now it doesn't work anymore." "Really?" East Wind asked Hans. "North Wind's magic is usually magic for always." "Not this time," Hans said. "Not this time." The twins took Hans to the North Wind's cave and poofed away in a swirling breeze. Hans called over the lingering sound of the poof, "Mr. North Wind! Mr. North Wind, sir! Please come out! It's me, Hans, the boy with the flour sack!" When there was no sound from the cave, Hans called out again, but a little louder this time. "The magic in the tablecloth you gave me seems to have worn out. I've come for your help." Hans waited and waited. Finally, a spout of cold white air rose up out of the cave. Behind the airy curtain, Hans could see the North Wind. "What is it now, boy?" Mr. North Wind bellowed. "I'm sorry to bother you again, sir, but the tablecloth you gave me, do you remember it?" "Of course I do. What about it?" asked the North Wind. "Well," said Hans, "it worked here and it worked at the inn, but it did not work any more when I got home." "And what do you expect me to do about it?" Hans started to frown at the North Wind, but stopped himself and said instead, could you fix it?" Mr. North Wind let out a huge gale of laughter. It made the great oak tree at the top of the cave sway from side to side. "Of course I cannot fix it." Hans shuddered in the cold air. "Well, what am I to do now? You've stolen my flour, and now the tablecloth doesn't make food anymore. What are my mother and I supposed to do now?" The North Wind floated down to get a closer look at Hans. Circling the boy slowly, Mr. North Wind said, "Are you telling me the truth, boy?" Yes, sir," shivered Hans. "Well then, I suppose I must help you again." The North Wind moved away from Hans and up to the oak tree. He blew the tree's branches this way and that way, and almost every which way branches can be blown. The noise of all this wind and branch blowing was deafening. Hans had to put both of his hands over his ears and close his eyes to keep things from flying into them. When the blowing noise finally stopped, Hans opened his eyes to look at the tree. Although the North Wind was gone, the oak tree was still there. There were icicles hanging from its branches, and huddled next to its trunk was a fleecy, black-faced ram. East Wind turned to Hans. "Well, aren't you the lucky lad?" "I am?" "Yes, you are. You are lucky to be sure, Hans," West Wind said with a little wink. "This is a magic ram. Mr. North Wind wants you to have him." Hans studied the fluffy ram. "He looks quite ordinary to me." "Yep, that's part of his magic," East Wind said. "Because he looks like most other black-faced rams, you can take him here and there and everywhere without giving away his special powers." "Special powers?" West Wind bent closer to Hans and whispered in his ear. "Go on, Hans. Give him a little pat on the head. Feed him an icicle from one of the tree branches and say, 'Ram, Ram, make me some money.'" Hans looked quizzically at the West Wind, and then he did. He patted the ram on the head between his horns, took an icicle off of the oak tree and whispered into one of the ram's soft ears, "Ram, Ram, make me some money." The ram turned his ebony nose toward Hans, blinked his eyes, and began to shake and quake and wriggle and jiggle. Gold and silver coins rained down from the ram's woolly coat until West Wind placed her hand on the ram's head. "That's wonderful!" exclaimed Hans. "It is," said the North Wind, "but take care not to ask the ram more than once a day. No ram wants a greedy master." Hans was quite pleased. He thanked the North Wind twins, not the North Wind twins. He thanked the Trade Wind twins and began the journey home. The trek was a harder with the ram, and before long the sun was going down behind the mountains. Hans got to the inn just in time. And we finished that just in time. So you get ready for chapter 7.